here on the job. No, it is not hard to see that it's the union.
Welcome to Labor's View. This show is brought to you by the very hard-working and dedicated employees of the Essex County Division of Welfare, and they are the members of the Communications Workers of America, Local 1081, the union that represents them. They're the non-supervisory employees of that agency. Today we have for you the first part of two shows that we're going to do. Our location where we're meeting with the CWA Welfare Council. We're in Trenton, New Jersey on Warren Street in the CWA office. And this group consists of approximately 16 of the 21 county welfare agencies, the union representatives, usually the presidents. We get together monthly to discuss our mutual and respective problems with our agencies. And today you're going to see my counterparts as well as I speak about the problems that we have. And I think it's important that people understand that while we're talking about welfare issues, welfare, as I've said many times, is a very big issue in terms of the components. It's not just welfare to women or to individuals. It's also Medicaid to senior citizens, boarding home for the disabled. It's for a lot of people in society, which most people don't know we service. So watch this, enjoy it, and I'll talk to you on the way out. Thanks.
Calling the meeting to order of the Welfare Councils for New Jersey, and if Alberto, our secretary, would go over the minutes.
Anybody need me to read the minutes? Everybody got a copy of the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
George is the second. So moved. Next we have the fund report. George Jackson is our treasurer.
I even called the not so fun report. We've been dealing with Capital One Bank, and we've had, when we first went to reopen the account, we signed all the papers, Ellen and I. We were called back again and said that the papers, we needed more papers signed. And we thought everything was fine. We started writing out checks, and checks started returning. Called the bank and asked, what was going on, why are the checks returning? And they said, well, the account shows that it's still closed. I said, well, we already been in 2 times. We already, took care of everything. What needs to be done now? Well, the guy says, well, you need to go back into the bank again, 3rd time. Went back into the bank again, 3rd time. She shows me on the computer how it's open and how she doesn't know exactly what the guy was talking about. So she showed me that 1 check had gone through, but the other 2 checks didn't show, which in their computer system, even if a check doesn't come through or is returned, then it still doesn't show in their account. So after 3 times, pretty much fed up. So I guess we could probably even ask for a motion or something to change the banks to something local. And any suggestions right up along, what street is this here? What's that, West Street?
Front Street.
Front, well, yeah, where the banks
State
are.
Street.
You got TD, you got Sovereign, you have
So
Wachovia.
essentially, yeah, we're looking for a motion to change banks because of the nightmare with Capital One, which is still up in the air.
Did you try calling Alec Global? Whom do you use?
We use Wachovia. Now, I've been told that that bank will close here, but
Most Wachovias have been taken over by Wells Fargo.
Wells Fargo, right. Yeah, that's right. Wells Fargo, I don't know what it
I move that we change it to TD.
TD is very easy.
Second.
Just ask Debbie what's most convenient.
Okay, so we have, all in favor of TD? Aye. Okay.
And the balance after the 2 checks are just written out would be $19,285.
Why don't we move on then to the local reports, what's going on at each one of our prospective locals. We've had a lot of talk about the state being involved at some places, overseeing the GA and food stamp cases and error rates, slowing down the process of getting applicants their benefits. We've also had some issues with staffing and lines. So with that being said, I will let David, maybe since he's over here to my left, start off from Local 1081 with some of the issues going on at his local right now. And I think probably most of them pertain to all of us here, and that's why we get together every month to share ideas on how to go back and help our members and the clients that we try to represent.
Thanks. Well, first I handed out a Star Ledger article that was actually taken off the internet last night, but it's in the paper this morning. Surprisingly statewide, it must be a slow news day, where the county executive, Joe DiVincenzo, came to do a ribbon cutting ceremony to open our new office, which is, we moved the royal we moved the Newark, Irvington, GA food stamp people out of East Orange in the county-owned building because of the overcrowding into the privately owned 18 Rector Street, 10 Park Place, two different streets, building, which is owned by a prominent landowner over there named Miles Berger. And I provided, the reporter called me, and I provided her with some of the grievances I've written. And she picked up on the fact that we still have, despite the fact that we moved the 45 employees and 5,000 clients to Newark, we still have lines and lines of people wrapped around every single day the East Orange site. In the heat, people waiting for hours to be seen. In fact, we're cutting off access to the building at 11 o'clock each morning because you get so many people coming in. And what you have to realize is that building, East Orange, owned by the county, is not just for the Division of Welfare. The first floor is food stamps. The third floor is for food stamps. But the second floor is actually the Department of Labor. It's a state leased from the county. And their clients are being turned away because of the overabundance of our clients, which is interesting. And then you have the Welfare to Work department is on the third and fourth floors. So all of that is impacting. We also had a problem with, about 3 weeks ago, raw sewage came up through the basement. Actually came through the grate and covered the floor in the lower, they call it the lower level. And that's where we keep our case files, and there's also a section for clients to sit. So if there's too many crowds of clients, you can offload them from the regular waiting room on the first floor down to the basement. Once I found that out, I told them no, not many people are not going down there anymore. I called POSH, they came out, and they are citing the county to do the cleanup better than they did because there's still brownish, murkish stuff on the floor, on the file cabinets, and we don't have access to the use of that additional space for the clients because we won't let them down there anymore. So that's why that's contributing to the problems there. We have, our scanners have come in for the DIMS program, which is, as you know, to prospectively scan cases from now on. The problem is, to me, I don't know if you've seen them, but they look like Tonka toys. They're very tiny little things, and we don't know who's actually going to be doing the scanning, because when we had a welfare reform committee put together by the county several months ago, which I wangled my way on, overseen by Janice Solutions, it was stated that clerks would be doing it, and I was very happy for that because as you progress, it won't be in the short term, but as you progress, obviously you're going to go to a paperless agency, so therefore the hands-on work that many of the clerks do, many of whom don't have the titles and or the educational or skill sets to do many other things than that, such as work computers. The idea was to get them to do the scanning rather than the professionals. The FSW is Family Service Workers, and they have enough to do anyway. As it is, we're over abundance, if you will. But now we don't know who's doing them. In fact, they put each unit is supposed to have 6 people. They put one scanner in two districts of each unit. I'm sorry, strike that. 2 units of each district. Each district has six units to it. So, or vice versa. Anyway, it's illogical completely to have that happen, because what will happen is I'm sitting there and I happen to have a scanner in my booth, and I have 4 coworkers that don't have scanners, but they have clients they have to scan things for. So they're going to come into my booth while I'm working, while I'm interviewing a client, while I'm on the computer, and I'm going to have to allow them to use my scanner. And then once you scan it, you have to input it somewhere, so you have to go and use my computer screen and change the code to your code so they can show up on your code. So what we've decided to do, my director and I decided, is we get $13,000 a year through our contractual negotiations for clerical educational opportunities. And unfortunately, they're almost never utilized. And come October, the deal is that money goes back to the division welfare to use what they want to use it for. So I actually, as part of the WIB, I was at a WIB meeting yesterday at County College, I spoke to the new president there, and she agreed with a plan that my director and I have, and that is that we're going to set up using the 13,000, we're going to set up a training module by Essex County College for our clerks, who number I believe it's 172 people, to be trained on Access, Word, and on Word, what's the other one where you plug the things in? The grid. Excel. On Excel, because those will be able to facilitate the inputting of the scanning, which should push the scanning back to being a clerical function rather than being a professional worker function. Plus, the idea is to enhance their skill sets, making them more valuable, and then negotiating better titles and or money for them, and protecting their job security.
That's not solving the hardware problem.
No. In fact, I'll point out to you, it's interesting. I'm sure you saw the articles just the other day where 180-something thousand tax rebates are being held up by the state. Anybody see this? Yeah. And the reason they gave is that their scanners don't work. And I'm really wondering if it's the same scanners because we buy through the state contract.
Such a deal, yeah.
So I'm going to be doing an open public records request to the state, asking them to see what scanners is Treasury using that are not working, that are causing them to go back to doing it by hand and delaying the payment by some 4 months. We're fighting Joe D. using the county executive using employees as political backdrops for his press conferences. Again, he had stopped doing that about 4 years ago, or 5 years ago, when I complained about it with our people, not other people. He takes people off the jobs, and our agency is easy to do because the jail's tough because you got to have 24 coverage and security. The youth house, the same thing. The mental facility, the same thing. Welfare, it's not so hard. But the problem we have is a couple of fold. One, we need those bodies to be doing the work. We don't need them to be spending 2 or 3 hours as human backdrops to make it look good for you for your press conferences. And various sundry issues. I mean, it's Black History Day, Women's History Day, Puerto Rican History Day. There's a new zoo exhibit. The thing that got us is that the governor came in, and his good buddy, whom he endorsed, he came in for 3 events within a week and a half. One was the dedication of a new exhibit at the zoo for sea lions. Then he came in for the planning for a new vocational school. Then he came in for the planning for a new senior citizen housing complex in Belleville. All of the time taking county employees off the job as a backdrop, which we consider to be a political issue, especially with someone such as the governor, who, to be kind, has not been acting in the best interest of public employees or welfare union people in particular. So, case banking, our training was postponed. It's going to be re-upped again, but I don't know why they postponed it, but they postponed it. And then the Medicaid expansion. Bruce, I don't want to dominate this whole thing, so I'm going to quit soon, but Bruce Nigro, the consultant to our group here, who used to be my division director years ago, is asking for information in that regard. I gave him I did 2 requested DFD, Division of Family Development. They finally gave us the one. He has it he thought there were major issues, but now there are a couple of things he needs cleaned up, so I'm going to do a revised request. The second request, I just got a check from our esteemed treasurer for it's over $1,000 for the second request. One had to do with food stamp, basically the other one with Medicaid, by and large. So the second one, we'll be sending the check out to him today, and we'll look for it. And then what I do is I ship the stuff to Bruce, and Bruce analyzes it.
In those requests, you're specifically looking for employee, the number of employees, or we were looking for the error rate with the food stamps, and we're trying to prove.
Initially, we were looking for the error rates.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
The number of employees came up within a different context, right?
Being short-staffed.
We were talking to a congressman who is looking to assist us, and he wanted to know how many numbers we respectively would need in order to facilitate Medicaid eligible clients to be serviced by our agency. Because as you know, they've got, I also attended you don't know this, I attended an anti-poverty network meeting, as I want to do when they hold them, since now they force me to be on the steering committee. And they had Maura from Citizen Action, whose board I co-chair, and she did a presentation on the Medicaid system. Since Citizen Action is going to be one of these, I keep calling them gatekeepers. What's the right term?
Navigators.
Navigators. And she did a whole presentation on that. I've done conference calls. I'm in contact with Dudley Burge all the time on this kind of stuff. So we're looking very closely. The idea being that we don't want to do or expect to do the non-eligible Medicaid clients, people that would not be eligible for Medicaid through our agencies. That we expect the
ones that get
navigators.
referred on to the hub or whatever.
Right, the market calls.
The market, the exchange. But we do want to do to service the clients that should normally be our clients, because as it is now, as what Maura said, which I didn't know, is that these exchanges, these navigators, can and will be taking applications for Medicaid eligible clients, which is a slippery slope as far as I'm concerned.
Then they're supposed to get sent to the agency.
Yeah, just as we are supposed to send them. I also suggested to Maura that if the state may want to consider placing navigators within the welfare offices so that we don't have to send clients running around. If you truly want to have a one-stop system, if a client comes in that's not Medicaid eligible for our system, but is eligible for, or may be eligible for the other system, let the navigator be located, co-located, and let them do the work there.
Because right now we don't think that there's the linkage between them that's
Right.
fleshed out in any way.
Exactly.
Exactly, and that's what's happening, I think, in the Medicaid expansion, and we're concerned with that. All the welfare boards is that there is no wrongdoer under the Medicaid expansion, and the access for the private Medicaids. The clients tend to come to us with the bulk of the questions. We're going to be able to help them when it comes to the Medicaid eligibility piece of it, which we're already understaffed and going to be overwhelmed for a system that's supposed to be in place, CAS and DIMS, and it's not, to manage these applications. Then we're supposed to be able to refer them where to go through the navigator or the private marketplace, and our own welfare employees, administration, have no clue how that works or where we're supposed to send them. So basically, as members here, what I'm doing is advocating to get to as many trainings and getting hands-on information, because as a social worker back at my board, I feel a responsibility to be able to tell people where to go, how to apply, and there's going to be no wrongdoer. So when they come to us, we're supposed to be able to give them the information, not just process the Medicaid piece of it, which we are expected to do. And then the Medicaid piece is going to be processed by all these navigators and marketplaces, supposed to come back to us. However, what's going to be the delay in that process? We're really concerned with this Medicaid expansion, that it's going to delay the benefits to the most vulnerable in our communities, making the workers at the boards of social services and welfare councils look more inept when they're doing everything possible. They just don't have the tools and the knowledge to service these people we're expected to do.
Tools in terms of staffing and
Right.
physical planning
Exactly.
capability.
And I have to laugh because we did get some of those new DIMS machines, and Joanne, you can tell us all how that works, because Union County is the first county with that, I think. But they do look like toys. They look like little machines. We thought it was going to be clerical workers as well, but now it's going to be the intake workers that have the actual machines on their desk, and there's one for a unit. At least you've got cubicles. We see hundreds of people, and it's a room like this, and there's no confidentiality. The buildings are I don't want to, well, yeah, they're totally inadequate to handle the mass numbers that we're seeing. They are not going to be able to handle the equipment coming in. The equipment goes down quite a bit. There's not enough room in the waiting rooms. You've got the lines, and I have to laugh when you said about the sewage problem, because 2 weeks ago in our county building at one of our out sites in Lakewood, there was also a sewage problem, and people had to go home sick. So we're doing, it's like even down to a sewage problem in the buildings. The buildings are so inadequate for what we need to do. And I'm just going to leave it at that. But we are facing a lot of the same things. So I'm just going to facilitate on to the next person. But as I'm passing it off, I just had to add that comment, down to a sewage problem. George, how is it going at your agency?
Well, we just started case banking on June 24th. And right now, it's separate. It's food stamp case banking and it's TANF case banking, two separate. Because it was initially supposed to be, everyone was going to be trained on TANF, and food stamp workers would be trained on TANF, and TANF workers are already doing food stamps, but that didn't happen. So right now, we just started. There are hardly any lines right now because they have this system they call 48-hour turnaround. The client comes in, wants to see a worker in regards to whatever it may be. The client is told to write down their information, and that in 48 hours they would be contacted in regards to what the problem is. Of course, you can see how that goes. So now they have 2 workers doing them. So the first day, I think they had 2 workers with 400 contact papers to call people back. And not only do they want them just to call them back, they want them to go into the system and look in the system, find out what's going on, make notes into the system, to the UAP or CAS system, and then call the client back. I talked to one of the workers when it first started, and he said out of the 200 that he got, he was able to call, doing everything, pulling the folder, looking to everything, calling people back. He was able to get maybe 20 to 30 done. But then the next day, of course, then there's another 200, and then the next day another 200. So right now they're sitting with stacks. So now they don't want to call them 48 hours anymore. They took the word away, but they're still sending the clients away. So with that, it looks like, if you were to walk into the agency right now, it looks like case banking is actually working when it's nowhere near working. It's just that these people are told that they have to go home and leave your information here and we'll take care of it. So right now, we have, and of course, those who are not called in 48 hours initially are now repeats because they're calling back every day. So now that stack of paper from the first day we might have 200, then goes to 300 because you have the repeats in there now. So you got to figure out. They have to figure out. I think they're supposed to have more workers doing it for one thing, but the whole thing is it looks like it's possibly working when it's not working, and the clients aren't getting served. It's the same thing, except having the bodies there. They still have the contacts there, and from the workers' point of view, now they have in some cases double work because of the repeats and the callbacks and all. So that's not looking good. Now, as far as DIMS and all, we're not there yet. We're waiting on that, but it's just right now it's pretty much a mess. And the whole thing is this: they can't work with the low staff. Lack of staffing, it just can't work. That's it, and that's what it's going to come down to. And they'll see it first. Well, they're seeing it right now firsthand. That with the lack of staff, it just can't work.
Right. That's the primary problem. We're already short-staffed. Benefits are delayed weeks and months in most counties. And then what happens is now we're going to be getting anywhere, like in Ocean County, over 40,000 Medicaid applications. There's going to be over 100,000 applications coming in other counties. So if we're already short-staffed, it's just going to snowball. It's going to slow down the welfare and food stamps because everybody's going to be hands-on for the Medicaid stuff coming in. And nobody's meeting any time. So, and good luck with training, because we at least got an email saying training is coming and it's going to the Medicaid workers first, but that's about it. We just got an email about CAS and DIMS. So.
And speaking of the basement, ours is going at the same time. We're having, at least not sewage, but we've been getting
Water.
flooded out,
Wow.
water, like, so now they had to transfer, half of the department down there, case management, to the other side of the basement, because they also had a pH,
That's what we gotta call
right,
it.
and they said, look, you gotta take these people here, you have to move to the other side. They brought in the fans and the whole nine, but when we get the good rains, which it's been raining almost every day, we're getting flooded.
And every time we have POSHA come in, they just say we have to ventilate it, there's not a lot they can do, and as long as they're willing to do the steps, they're not in non-compliance, so every time it rains, you got the big giant fans coming in, we're waiting for somebody to go slipping down the stairs, because it's a waterfall in the front stairwell and the back stairwell in most places.
There's got to be a mold remediation situation going
Oh,
on by
it's
now.
horrible. It's horrible. It's actually horrible, and our walls are so old, they look like they're growing, but they said it's something else every time POSHA comes in.
Say it's not harmful.
Right,
What you're
right.
saying?
It looks all fuzzy, but it's not harmful. So, and since they're taking steps to remediate the problem, there's nothing POSHA can do.
Yes, the rules on mold are very, very weak, as I've learned in our basement, very weak.
But no matter what the mold, I suppose people may have sensitivities to it, the
That's
mold
true.
spores, you know,
Right.
and, you know, it's an individual thing.
Mhm. That's it.
Ironically, though, we once had a client whose entire apartment was covered with black mold all over the walls. And the management made our workers get them out of there and get them into a shelter pending get another apartment.
Mhm.
The irony was they wanted our workers to go in to inspect the event. I said, no,
To see.
they can poke their head in the front door, but they're not going into the.
Yeah, we're going to wear masks.
Yeah.
Right.
We're not going into what social workers do.
Yeah.
All right.
So I think you've seen that the problems that are faced by the county welfare agencies in the state of New Jersey are immense. And many of you might say, well, what do we care? First of all, we don't want people getting welfare. Those are my tax dollars, and they should go out and work. A lot of it is for people that obviously cannot work and have problems that are beyond the pale in terms of not only for their physical and or psychological issues, but we're in an economy since 2008 where you have 400,000 people that are out of work in the state of New Jersey, thanks in part to Governor Christie, and you have businesses leaving New Jersey, and not because of taxes, but for many, many, many other reasons. So the amount of jobs that are available to people aren't there, and the services are growing exponentially, particularly food stamps and Medicaid. So we hope you understand that these issues don't just affect our members of our union. They don't just affect the clients that we service, which is in Essex County is 1 out of every 5 persons, residents of the county, is serviced. 1 out of every 5 in Essex County is a recipient in some sort of the Essex County Division of Welfare. So it's and it runs the gamut from the urban areas all the way on up to Roseland, to Belleville and beyond. So we hope you enjoyed this show. We'll be back with the next show to finish up with it and give you even more information about this very important topic. Thank you. I'm David Weiner again for Labor's View.